In your own words, how would you define a mental illness?
A disorder.
A disease.
Someone who needs help.
As defined by the National Alliance on Mental Illness is a condition that affects a person's thinking, feeling, or mood. Mental illness can affect anyone, but some of the most susceptible people are injured athletes. Athletes normally have a routine to practice their sport with their team to perform better at competitions and improving upon themselves. But when they receive an injury, they can be taken away from that routine for an extended period of time, which can have a major impact on their mental health. I can speak from personal experience after having to undergo surgery and being forced to lay in bed to recover for nearly 2 months. The best way I can describe it is that you feel powerless. Going from a scheduled routine of exercise and practice to having to watch from the sidelines not being able to do anything can be really hard to handle. One thing to note is that mental illness can affect everyone, even the top most performing athletes. An article posted on the Journal of Science, Medicine, and Sport reported a study done on elite athletes, where 187 athletes were surveyed, and 21% of them reported symptoms related to depression. While injured athletes can be the most susceptible to mental illnesses, there are still chances that some groups can still show signs of mental illness or depression. In terms of athletes currently going through recovery, we wanted to see how their mental state was during that recovery period. We asked an athlete who had recently received an injury about his recovery and his progress thus far, and this is what he had to say.
Ups and downs. I think at the beginning, I saw so much improvement really quick. Then I just sort of kind of hit a wall where like the progression slowed down and the recovery slowed down, and now it's more finite and it's more, I don't know, it's getting harder to deal with, like mentally, from a mental standpoint, like in terms of confidence, in terms of motivation.
Athletes currently in or finishing recovery have a lot of stress they have to handle while doing so. However, when they decide to return to their sport, their mental battle isn't over yet. A study found from the Rehabilitation and Sports Medicine recorded athletes and their feelings towards returning to their respective sport. While over half of the athletes had no fear returning to their sport, 2/3 of those athletes reported being afraid of undergoing the same injury they just recovered from. Something we want to emphasize here is that athletes with mental illnesses are not lost causes. There are many side effects and consequences to athletes becoming injured, but there are ample amounts of support and ways we can help them in their recovery. One article from the Journal of Athletic Training discusses psychosocial responses of athletes in recovery. The main takeaway from this article is the different stages that athletes undergo during recovery. The initial impression of the athlete's injury and their initial recovery process are the main factors that can determine the athlete's overall mental state. It is important to help athletes in their initial recovery period because this is the time they are most susceptible to negative thoughts and interactions with themselves and others. Ensuring they have the proper help and support can make a huge difference on their overall recovery and beyond that. Athletes of all shapes and sizes are susceptible to a mental illness, and all of them may need help in one way or another, whether they want to admit it or not. An article posted on the Clinical Orthopedics and Related Research conducted a study comparing adolescent athletes and their parents' views on the athlete's mental health, where the parents saw more depressive symptoms in their children compared to the athletes. While there isn't a major difference here, something to take note of is an adolescent's view on what they believe a mental illness to be, or even a child's view, can vary from their parents. It's important to look for the signs of depression that athletes may be showing so we can help them work through and ensure their safety. Injured athletes can be the most susceptible victims to mental illness and depression. It is important to be aware and ensure that these athletes get the proper care and support to ensure they get the best possible recovery. Mental illness can be deadly and hard to beat, but it's not impossible. The most important thing to remember is to have support from others. Just being there for someone in recovery can make a huge difference in someone's overall recovery and mental health. If you know someone who shows signs of depression or mental illness, such as a lack of motivation, lower energy, poor appetite, or negative thoughts and actions toward themselves or others, please don't hesitate to help them. Even a simple, "Hey, how are you?" can make a huge difference in their life. There are numerous facilities that are readily available to help those in need on and off campus, and even in the most severe cases, there is a suicide prevention hotline. Don't assume someone doesn't need help, because sometimes the moment you realize they may need help may be a moment too late. Don't ever hesitate to help those in need, because you might just end up saving someone's life.